Hey boys and girls, it is springtime in Southern California. It is time for me to do my weed abatement in the backyard. And because of all the rain we got this year, we got some big freaking weeds. Yeah, this is what I've done. It's already grown back to a point where I need to do it again. But you can see down there and over to the side over there, it's where the big stuff is I'm going to have to still get to. Especially down, see if I can zoom in on that down there at the bottom. Yeah. If you guys saw the video, boy, I don't know if you aren't watching my old videos, you're knuckleheads. The one where I made the mustard greens and black-eyed peas, the yellow flowers that I think you can see here are from the mustard green plants. The problem is that in the late spring they grow really tall and they get really tough, and boy, the leaves get really bitter once they go to the yellow. So it's time, or once they go to flower, so it's time to cut them back. In the past, the string trimmer did a fine job, but not this year. The weeds were too thick, too heavy. So I had to try some new things, and what you're going to see in this video is a series of abject failures. There are things that I tried to do, thought seemed like good ideas. At the time, well, I don't know if I could even say that, because anyone who would try some of the things that I tried putting on that string trimmer is an absolute idiot. And the best thing that should come out of this video is that you don't have to try any of those things, because I did it for you, and luckily I'm still intact, but boy, there was some pretty dumb things. So let's head out to the shop and I'll show you what we did. Now, for years I used my Ryobi gas trimmer to cut the weeds down, and it worked pretty good. I was always happy with it. But my wife, a while back, last year in fact, bought this thing. It's 40 volt Ryobi battery powered trimmer. It's got the graphite shaft. It's got a set of 40 volt battery. I think the thing spins at like 470 megapixels per deciliter or something like that. I don't know. And it works really well. There's some things about it I do like. It's lightweight. It's very quiet. I don't have to wear headphones and stuff, and I don't have to breathe the exhaust from that 2-cycle gas. And it's balanced well. I can use it with one hand on the hillside, so it works really good. But there is a problem. You see, my Ryobi trimmer, as masculine as it may look, has a man bun. That's right, skinny jeans and a damn man bun. When I go out to try and cut the thick weeds, and this year we had a lot of rain, and we got some weeds that got up to pretty daggone thick, the string just won't cut. It does come with a pretty good string. This, I don't know if you can see it here, this orange twisted string that, you know, I've paid up before for what I thought was the good stuff at the hardware store, and this stuff lasts 3 times as long when you're cutting light weeds and grass. But unfortunately, when you start getting up into the heavy stuff, it just doesn't work. So I went and spent $37, I think it was, at Home Depot, and I bought the cutter head that comes with these plastic blades. They're serrated, sharpened on both sides, and it's pretty simple. You just replace the original head with this head, pop that on the little peg, you got 2 of them and you're home free. Again, the problem with it is that while it cut better than the string, I still could not get a full battery charge out of a set of those things. And they're not expensive. I think it's like $9 to buy 4 pairs. My next attempt was to take a piece of this 1/8 inch thick aluminum angle I have, and all I did is I traced the blade onto it. I cut 2 blades using my angle grinder and sharpened them up on the bench grinder, and I thought I was being pretty daggone smart. I was kind of proud of myself. They looked really cool. I went out and used them, and at first they cut really well, but they didn't last much longer than the plastic ones. And for the time it took to make them, it wasn't worth it. So I'll move in here. This is what's left of the aluminum blade. First it bent, looked like an ad for Peyronie's disease, and then it quickly broke off. But I formed it to be shaped just like the original. I even put the serrations in and sharpened everything. It just wasn't the proper material. I thought it would work better because it was lightweight, and I thought it would work well, but sometimes I fail. So I got to talking to my next door neighbor, and between us we got two ideas that we're going to try today. So my neighbor and I were talking about the conundrum, and we decided on two options. The first one was, went down to the dollar store and I bought this set of steak knives. You know it's got to be good stuff because it comes from a place called Royal Norfolk Cutlery. Name like Royal Norfolk Cutlery, you know that's some fine stuff. So I paid up for them. I think a set of 4 was $1.25. Wait a minute, it's a dollar store. Holy crap, inflation even hit the dollar store. It's up 25% from the normal 99-cent price. Freaking Putin. Anyway, the second option was, this was my bright idea, the steak knife was my neighbor's, was to use a hacksaw blade. I had a bunch of hacksaw blades lying around. Both of them had a couple of things going for them. One, they're thin and lightweight. 2, they're cheap. And 3, see where the pin is, and on the end of the blade there's holes already drilled, so all you really got to do is cut it to size and maybe do a little shaping on the grinder to get to the shape you want, and it's done. Now it didn't quite work out that way on the knives, because what appears to be a through-tang knife is actually the blade only goes to the edge of the what looks like a pin. The pin's actually just there for decorative purposes. It doesn't go into the metal at all, it just goes into the plastic handle. To make the knife blade version, I did have to drill a hole for the pin, and believe it or not, even this cheap knife was too hard for me to drill into with the drill bits I had. So what you saw at the first of the video was me heating it up to soften it up so I could then put it in the drill press and drill that hole for the pin. Now, I'm not the sharpest peanut in a turd, but I was at least smart enough to know that it wasn't a good idea to try and hold the blade in the drill press by hand. Doesn't mean I couldn't do it. I could, but there's some things that are just too stupid to have to try and explain to the paramedics. So I made this little fixture thing, and all it is the blade slides in there and then screw in here and here, and that holds it so that you can drill that hole without the blade coming loose. And so after I made the two blades, I made one out of the steak knife and one out of the hacksaw. We decided to run the test as what we in the scientific community would call a double stupid study. That's where you get two guys who are old enough and should be wise enough to have common sense enough not to do something, and then they go ahead and do it anyway. So we both put the blades on our cutters and went out in our yards and tried it, and well, that lasted about 5 minutes. The steak knife blade is unblemished. The hacksaw blade twisted and broke very quickly. On the good side, this went through those weeds like butter. I mean, it worked really, really well. I'm going to go ahead and make another knife blade one, and then I'm going to see if it makes it all the way through, what they look like at the end of a charge. Got good news and bad news, boys and girls. The good news is no one was injured in the making of this video. Bad news is that even the steak knives ultimately failed before the battery wore out. So the good side, the steak knives, they cut through the weeds like nothing. I was able to run it on lower speed, which means that I could run for a longer period of time. But both of the blades, I don't know where they ended up. They broke off and just flew off somewhere. Luckily not into my leg. There is a shield on there to keep that from happening, but they came close. I got to give them, this is one of those half glass full successes in that they fit on there well, they worked well, they cut, like I said, like a breeze. They just didn't last long enough. So it's back to the drawing board. I'm going to give it one more shot and then we'll see what we can come up with. Now the last thing that I tried to do after everything else had failed was I had some old 7.5 inch or 7 inch circular saw blades that I picked up at an estate sale somewhere, and they weren't really usable. So I took my grinder and cut some blades out of those and tried that. They worked beautifully. I thought they would work really well because those should be really tough metal. They should, you know, they're used to banging into hard stuff. They should do well, but sadly they broke off pretty quickly. In fact, here's after about 3/4 of a charge, there's one left, and the other one, actually the pin that holds it on broke off. So not only were they a little bit, maybe a little heavier and a little harder on the trimmer, but they were certainly heavier on the, or harder on the cutter head, and I did end up having to go buy another one. Now admittedly, I did these things kind of Wile E. Coyote style. Instead of making the aluminum blade and having it fail and then adjusting and fixing it and trying something different, I just threw it aside. Kind of like when the jet skates threw me off the cliff and into the desert, I went to the giant magnet, and when the giant magnet sucked me into the rock, then I got the giant springs that went on my feet, and you know, like Wile E. Coyote, I just tried something completely different. In the end, the redneck in me hates to admit it, but the only thing that really worked and worked well was something I bought at Home Depot, and it was these things right here. You can get that. Pull it out. It's a little plastic thing. It has a metal blade that goes around it. It's from Shakespeare Company, and it's called the Rino-Tuff brush cutter. These things, in order to make it fit, I did have to make a change. I had to take this little bit of plastic over to the bench grinder and grind it off because it wouldn't fit inside the cutter head on my Ryobi. But once I put them on, you know, I hate to admit it, but it actually worked amazingly well. I was able to keep it at low speed so that not only did the battery last longer so I could cut more, but it also, I think, helps the little blades to last longer because there's not quite so much force smacking them into the weeds. I cut some weeds that were close to 1 inch in diameter with it, and it actually cut through. You can see this is after going through 2 charges, and it's hard to tell. This one's a little bit bent. This one still looks almost new. So these things, they come in a 3-pack for about $9, and I almost didn't buy them, but you know, I was kind of at the end of it. I didn't know what else to do. I tried just about everything I could think of. This was, like I said in the beginning, a series of failures that hopefully you'll find valuable. because you don't have to try the silly things that I tried. So if you enjoyed the video, or if you got any value out of it, subscribe, leave me a comment. If you looked at it and thought it was the stupidest thing you've ever seen in your life, leave me a comment about that too. Just remember, there's one rule: you roast me, I get to roast you back. We can have some fun that way.